Okay. Hello, everybody. Let me see. What have we got on here? Let's just make sure we've got the speaker button output. Yep, we're good to go. And it's recording. And I will now put it in speaker view. And hi, Laurie. How you doing?
I'm good.
Suzanne.
Hello.
We've got down here Sarah. We've got Dave. We've got Erna. We've got and I'm now going to put it on speaker view. So that's hopefully if I start speaking now, then it'll turn to me instead of Laurie. No, it's not doing that. I'll stick it on gallery view for a bit. Oh, Mark as well. Hi, Mark. How you doing? How is everybody today? I don't know why the speaker view is still you, Laurie. It's not doesn't seem to want to shift for some reason. But yes, in that case, I'm just going to mute Dan as well. And I'll just stick it in gallery view. Hi, everyone. Thanks very much for joining this this Zoom webinar, which is actually about creating your future. But I'm very yellow today. For some reason, I'm in yellow land. But I thought I'd kind of dangle a little carrot out there, which was courtesy of an insight that came to me when I was with my squirrels this morning, which was if you actually had to create £50,000 in a couple of weeks, could you do it? Mark, I'm going to mute you. I think let's make sure that everyone else is muted as well. Oh, hi, Maureen. How are you? Yeah, Anthony, and it got me thinking, which is always a danger. Creatively, even more of a danger. And actually, I have to say that if it wasn't for a little session I did with Laurie earlier, who is who's my coach, just so you know, you wouldn't have been getting this evening because my creativity juices were not flowing, and as a result of a little session that we did, they flowed. So I'm going to see if it's going to let me do the speaker view now. Oh, it's still Laurie. Laurie, you're taking over. It's just like it's having you as the speaker. Fair enough. Don't know why, but there we go. Oh, hi, Darren. How you doing? I'm just going to mute everyone else as they come on. So the question is, who thinks that they could do it? Who thinks that they could actually create £50,000 in 2 weeks? Hands up if you think you could do it. Right. 2 people. 3, that was like 2.5. Okay. I've often, used this example. If you have kids and if someone holds a gun to your head and says, your kids are going to die unless you create this. I'm on your speaker view. Oh, cool. And I'll put it back to speaker view then. Even though I just got to see Laurie, it's great. If you had to do it, if you absolutely had to do it, would you do it? And of course, when there's a big enough why, we'll do it. So the question is, why don't we do it the rest of the time? Why don't we do what we say we want to do the rest of the time? And of course, the answer is actually really simple. It's because we don't actually want it enough. I'm going to go to gallery view. I quite like the gallery view anyway. So I've written a book called The Entrepreneur Success Formula. Some of you may have read it. Yeah, there we go. So I'm on speaker view, and I've also written a book called Do Nothing. Now, isn't it interesting that like the two of those books together, they seem like sort of a bit of a counterbalance, isn't it? It's like go out there and do loads of stuff and don't do anything. Well, this is actually a book about trusting your thinking at the wrong time, and it's very easy to do that because guess what? The thinking that I had at 11 o'clock this morning, and then the thinking I had about 2 o'clock this afternoon, and then the thinking I had about 5 o'clock this afternoon, all came from the same place, and yet they gave me a completely different reality. The one I had at 11 o'clock was, oh, that's a great idea. The one I had at 2 o'clock was, oh my God, what am I doing? And the one I had at 5 o'clock was, I've got some really good ideas now. And it was that simple, right? But it was the same power of thought giving me that reality. Nothing in my situation had changed, by the way. Nothing at all, right? It was just literally the different thinking had given me a different reality. And as a result of that, the question that I have to ask you next is, well, if you don't think you can do it, the answer to why you don't think you can do it is in that one word, because you don't think you can do it. But if you had to do it, you would probably do it. So the next question is, well, how do you get a big enough why? Well, this is where I actually, my creativity meets reality, because I'm actually in a position where I actually have to do that. I mean, we always paint a bleaker picture than it is, but we've got a lot of business coming in for this year with this new venture that I'm doing through Vets Health, which is taking the 3 principles out to veterinary surgeries. There's a massive need for it in healthcare. Especially in vets in the veterinary industry. I didn't realize that I actually have a client whose husband is a vet, and there's between 4 and 10 times the suicide rate of the national average in the UK of veterinary surgeons and nurses, and I could not believe it. I was blown away by that figure. And as a result of that, we've been putting programs together to take the 3 principles, the inside-out understanding. For anyone who doesn't know the 3 principles, it's very simple. You're creating your reality through your thinking, and behind that, you've got this essence that you're absolutely fine. And it's the wisdom that will guide you when you just get out of the way, when you get out of the way, or this crap in here gets out of the way. And so we're taking that to veterinary nurses and surgeons across the country, and we've got a lot of work being lined up already, and so much so that we're looking to get associates in. But it's in the distance, it's not happening imminently. I've got a 25 grand tax bill and lots of other stuff that needs to be paid imminently. But again, you can speak to HMRC about these things, and they're actually they're quite nice about it, as long as, you cough it up within a couple of weeks, otherwise your kids die. Which I thought was a bit harsh, really. I mean, how they got them, I don't know, but they're in a prison in HMRC, and they're going to, anyway, not true. So there is a need. And so that was when I was, down on myself this morning thinking, oh God, that's a lot of money. But it isn't really. It isn't really. It's only if you think it is. There was a brilliant card I remember picking once from this pack, which said castles and buttons. Castles and buttons. It's just as easy to create both. It's the same thinking that goes into both, and it's the same creativity that goes into both castles and buttons. The only thing that makes it bigger or smaller is that you're thinking in the moment saying, I can't do that. That's impossible. And I remember Duncan Bannatyne once said, once you've made the first million, all the others are easy. It's just that we think that first one's going to be the hard one. And it is. It's how do you get over that first hurdle? And so part of that process is a very simple process that I want to talk through a bit tonight. But I'm also going to get you guys to be part of that process, because there is something about when people get together and create a space where new and fresh ideas can happen and bounce ideas off people, that new thinking emerges. So we're going to do a little bit of that tonight. We're going to do a little bit of getting together. I'm going to use the input. I'm going to have the creative input, and I'm going to give you guys loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of suggestions and material and stuff that I've come up with about how you could actually do it. But then we're also going to get personal and say, right, if what do you do? How do you, what do you want to achieve? It might not just be about money, but it's about whatever you want to achieve. And then I'm going to do some coaching with you and actually give you some examples of how you can, again, get out your own way to do that. And then we're going to get other people in the group to have creative suggestions as well. So it's all about creating this thing called a mastermind. But the impetus is creativity, and that comes from thought. That comes from thinking. So just a quick show of hands here. So who has heard of the 3 principles? Who's heard of the 3 principles? So quite a few people here who've heard of the 3 principles. Okay. So, we've got hands being raised there from people with no picture. That's good. I didn't even know you could do that. So that's good. So you understand that whatever reality you're creating, whether it's my life is crap, or my life is great, or this is the worst thing that could happen to me, or this is the opportunity for change, right? Whatever it is, whatever you are creating in that moment, you're creating it through your thinking, right? Everyone gets that. Everyone can understand that. That's like a tangible kind of truth that you can say, oh, it's coming through thought. Now, what's creating that? Not sure. Above my pay grade. Where does that come from? Here's the question that I get asked a lot. And this is quite a controversial question as well. Pete Bailey says, I'm both happy and skin. What are you doing on this webinar? I want to create £5 in 2 weeks. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the happiest profession is hairdressers, and the unhappiest is architects. And architects are way better paid than hairdressers. Do you know why? because hairdressers are being creative and they're talking to people and connecting with people every day, and architects are on their own building something that will never be built. Most people won't even see it, right? In fact, your boss will probably come up and tell you it's a bit shit. And it's like, but I've just spent my life creating this and you've just told me it's rubbish. So that's why architects are really, really upset. Sharon says, I'm not skinned and very, very unhappy. Okay, we'll sort you out next. So hairdressers happy, yeah. And in fact, they even did a survey about the happiest times in history. And in the Second World War in London, was actually, they were really, really happy in the Second World War in London. Which you think, well, how does that work? Because, you know, you're getting like bombed and your friends getting blown up every day. And it's because of that. Yeah, it's because of that. Because, community, Peter's community, it's because, you value life. Yeah, if you think you're going to die any minute, guess what? You value life, right? That's a why. Yeah, which is why deadlines work. Deadlines work because all of a sudden you got to do something. We have your kids. We're going to kill them unless you pay your tax bill. You got to come up with the money. It's like, okay, I'm doing it. Unless, of course, you don't like your kids, which have, but that happens. It does happen. I have had that in workshops when I said, if, your kids have been held hostage, and they're like, great. That's fantastic. Don't mind that. But of course, as another good example, it's like, we think our happiness comes from our kids. Well, it does sometimes when we think it does, and other times, so does our annoyance. It's not coming from them. It's coming from our thinking in the moment. So we have this process that's creating our reality, and that's through our thinking process. And the next question is the one that I get asked all the time is, do we control it? I'm just going to put the chat on the side here so I can actually see when people say things. Do we control it? So as a show of hands, actually, I'm going to have to just get rid of that chat box for a second because I need to see everyone for a minute in the full thing. As a show of hands, who thinks that we can control our thinking? 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Who thinks that we don't control our thinking? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And who doesn't know? A couple of seconds. Right. Okay. So we're in the camp of control of non-control. Okay. So now I agree that you can't control the next thought that's going to come into your head. Right. I know that because I have no idea what I'm going to think next. But once it's in here, it's mine, right? Once it's in here, it's mine, and I get to choose what to do with it. Yeah. So if I have a thought that says, I've got no money, I've got no way of doing it, I've got no way of getting it, I'm a loser, right? That's what I get. That's the reality that I get. If I have that thought and go, well, that ain't true, this is an opportunity, then that's mine too, and I get to do something with that. So it's kind of like, we're getting played the songs on the stereo, but we get to choose whether to dance with them or not. Yeah. So if you're going to have a sad song, go with the sad song. But if you have like a dance song, get up and dance. And this is where I probably differ from other people that talk about the principles. I think it's logical that we are co-creators in this, right? Because the water droplet is part of the ocean. Okay, it might not decide where the current goes, but the water droplet is part of the ocean and therefore has some sort of say in that, right? So we are part of that which created us. Therefore, we are co-creators. So if, we get given this gift of thought, and we get given this creativity, and we get given these opportunities to do stuff, well, surely we can have a little bit of a say about where we drive that. Yeah, this is what I think. So as a result, if we choose, again, we're back to kind of free will and choice. If we choose to pay attention to certain thinking and we go off down that route, we go off down that path, then why not? We are co-creators in this. So that's really what tonight is about. It's about coming up with lots of really cool ideas about how we could do stuff. It's about working together as a mastermind together to really kind of get some really fertile thinking in here. And we've got some, live examples we can play with. It's about really kind of like seeing, what could we do next? And then we'll kind of like, I'm going to give you loads of examples of things that you could do, which are going to I hopefully blow you away, because I work with entrepreneurs. That's the thing that I've been doing for the last 6 years, and I've written a book about it. And we talk about mindset. We work on mindset more often than not. But once we've kind of got over the mindset bit, it's about, okay, well, what do you want to do next? It's like, well, kind of like to do some creating stuff, please. I'd like to create a business, or I'd like to write a book, or I'd like to get on stage and start speaking, or I'd like to, have a better life, or I'd like to make more money. Whatever it is, people decide, and they choose that reality, and then I help them kind of make it happen. And what I'm actually really good at is seeing possibilities where other people see problems. Yeah, it's why everyone should have a coach, by the way, because you should pick a coach that does this for you, right? Because if you're doing it on your own, you're only seeing your only view. You're only seeing one view. It's like looking out the window and literally just kind of seeing that. That's all you ever see. Whereas if you have other people helping you, you're seeing other, you're having other options available. So what did Lisa say? If I don't interact much, I'm still. Oh, okay. Your dog's having a seizure. Oh my God! Go and sort your dog out. This is being recorded. Bloody hell. Okay, so we're going to have some live input, a bit of live coaching, and there'll be I've got some of the stuff that you guys have sent already. There's some people with some anxiety, there's some people who want to grow a business, there's some people who want solutions to problems. There's all sorts of stuff here that we can deal with. So is everyone in the right place? Good. Yeah, fantastic. Right, who here is actually wants something different in their life? They want something different in their life. Right. Okay, it's most people. Who is totally happy with it exactly as it is? Right. Wouldn't want to change a thing. Okay. Right. We'll come to you in a minute then, because I just want to check in to see if that's true or not. Because I have a feeling it might not be. So, who thinks they get in their own way in getting whatever it is they want? Yeah. Well, actually, it's the only reason. Who always thinks it's outside? Who always blames someone else or something else? Who's a blamer? Oh, it wasn't me. It was what happened out there. It's the government. It was it's always the government's fault, isn't it? By the way, just any government that comes in, they're always going to do the same things. Hot potato, the medical, always the same thing. Well, you see, the problem is, there is only one problem. It's you. But it's also good news, because it's the cause and the solution. Once you get out of your own way, okay, it opens up the path to get whatever it is you're after. Now, there is a part of that sentence which kind of needs to be looked at, which is, do you know what you want? Do you know what you want? That happens a lot. Who here doesn't know what they actually want? Who hasn't got the clarity on what they want? Okay. Now, you see, that would be the first point of call, right? The first port of call is to always get clarity on what it is that you actually want in the first place. And what tends to happen, and I know Laurie sees this a lot, is whatever you think it is, it ain't that. Whatever you think it is the thing. I'm just going to mute you, Mark. Whatever you think it is, it ain't that. So it's about digging a little bit deeper and finding out what's below the surface, what's underneath, what is below the layers, what's the drivers. Okay, what are the drivers of whatever it is you think that you're after? And that's often why there's not clarity, because it's so easy to look at the thing you want and just say, why aren't I getting it? Why am I not getting this thing? I keep trying to get it, but I'm not getting it. It's probably because that ain't the thing you're after. So understanding what it is you're after is absolutely crucial. Understanding your why behind that is also really, really crucial. And then the next stage is to kind of look and see where in your thinking there is a block with that. And this is what Laurie is really, really, really good at doing. It's and then getting it and 86ing it over your shoulder. Get rid of that, because that's the thing that's getting in the way. There is a reason you are having this life right now. Right? There is a reason you are in the place you are in right now. It's because you've had thinking up until this point that's got you where you are right now. Whatever that is. And it's never anything to do with what's out there. Even when people have been involved in car accidents or, roadside bombs or whatever it is, it's how they react to those situations that is key. And in many cases, and this is what's really amazing about this, usually the things that have been the hardest in our life are the things that we are most thankful for later. That's really, really eye-opening. To actually look back and say it was that thing that I was in, immense pain at the time that actually got me to where I am now. It's almost like we need to have that thing to kind of show us that there's a different way, there's a different path. And interestingly enough, that's the feeling I had at 11 o'clock this morning when I had I need to create £50,000 in a couple of weeks. Okay, it's not a couple of weeks, but I just thought 2 weeks would be quite fun. Wouldn't that be great? Is that possible? Oh, actually, yeah, it is possible. Some people are out there now thinking 50K in 2 weeks. Well, that's a cinch. Yeah, I could do that in a day. And there are people that can do it in a day. There's people that do it in an hour. There's people that get paid that in quarter of an hour, right? So it's possible. You've just got to unpick all this stuff and then create the way and the path to do it. So tonight, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up with some really cool suggestions, right? Which hopefully are going to resonate with you guys. And then I'm going to get you guys to have some feedback and also some interaction. And then we're going to get this mastermind thing going, this creativity thing going, and seeing what we can come up with that's going to be that's going to make sense for you guys and also give you some real value from tonight. Okay, I'm just going to read a couple of the messages here. So make me happy now as what I want I can't have, so unsure. Right. Okay, so it's about finding out what that thing is. You don't know if you don't know if you want it yet. So again, it's like if you had to do it, if you absolutely had to do it, would you do it? Could you do it? And so the driving factor, the why. Who's the guy that wrote Man's Search for Meaning? He said, if you have a why, will overcome any how. Yeah, and this is a guy that went through the concentration camp and survived. Viktor Frankl. Thank you, Richard. Awesome. So if you haven't got your why and you haven't got your clarity, what you can do is you can personal message me. People only says Frinkle. That was his brother. And you can message me and we can actually do a little session on what is your why and how you can get some clarity. But in terms of actually creating the 50K, so the first thing that you need to do is work out what you're good at. Okay, what do you have a superpower at? Yeah, so if we used to play this game when we used to interview people for flatmates. I used to live with 3 girls in the Finchley Road, and we used to interview people if there was a new flatmate. So one of the girls left to interview people, and one of the questions was if you had a superpower, what would it be? But it has to be one that if you had a superpower, what would it be? But it can't be one of the current superpowers. So it can't be like Batman, whatever Batman does. He's like a bat, isn't he? And it can't be Superman. Because that's like, and he's just like the general, the general practitioner, and it can't be Black Panther because I've not watched the film, but apparently it's quite good. So it has to be something. What would your superpower be if you had to do this thing? If it was like the only thing you could do for the rest of your life, would you be really, really happy doing it? Yeah. So working with kids, for instance, if you wanted to work with kids, if you just love getting the best out of kids, like maybe as a coach, if you wanted to be a midwife or work, there's Mark Harris, he's the midwife. If you want to work with babies, if you want to work with Rich Perry, he works with CEOs of companies because he likes to go in and speak to these people because they are very smart, like Richard. And or are you a good listener? Yeah, deep listening skills. Maybe you're into IT, like Mr. Wesley over there. Maybe you're setting up a cause. Maybe you've got a cause. Maybe you'd like to change the way that things are done. Maybe you'd like to go into politics, or maybe that's something for later on. There's a lot of politicians go into politics at sort of the mid 50s range. So, what is it that you're really, really good at that if you had to do it for the rest of your life, you'd do it? And so my thing is creativity. I spent 20 years as a creative in marketing and media, and I'm very, very good at it. I'm very good at being creative. I'm very, very good at getting people to be creative. And then you match that with something like the three principles, which is, understanding how thought works and then being a good listener and kind of being able to spot bullshit. And that's really handy, because then if you're working with entrepreneurs, guess what? You've got a really good mix and a really good ingredients list for getting the best out of entrepreneurs, because they want to do things that tends to be their superpower. They've got thing they're passionate about and they love doing, and they've got all these obstacles that they're trying to overcome, usually mindset based. So it's a really good mix. It's a great mix to be able to do that job and do it effectively and do it really, really well. Because what you got to do if you're going to go and create £50,000 in 2 weeks is you've really got to amplify that to a massive scale, right? You've got to get that gift to a really big scale, onto a really big scale, if you've got to do it. Okay, now there's two ways of looking at this problem. Well, there's actually more than that, but these are the two ways that I came up with when I was kind of like pondering it, which is you've either got to go very, 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 very narrow and very, 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 very deep, right? Or you've got to go very, 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 very wide and very, very large. Yeah. So you've either got to get to a lot of people at like a small scale. So something like a book. Yeah. So something like a book, which is going to get to, thousands maybe of people, but doesn't cost a lot of money. Or you've got to go very narrow and very, very deep. You've got to get to someone who really, 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 really needs it, who can really, 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 really afford it. And you have got to be that authority. Okay, so those are your two extremes, right? So, if I don't know, if Richard Branson had a particular need for someone that has been working with entrepreneurs, and he's all of a sudden he's come across the three principles, and he's like, I want someone who works with entrepreneurs and three principles, and Robin and Ken aren't available, and Sandy Crott's already doing a gig, and then he sees that I've written 2 books, and it's like, oh wait a minute, this guy, he works with entrepreneurs and he knows the three principles. I wonder if he's available. There's ways of finding me. I actually had a headhunter call me the other day, and he managed to find my mobile phone, which I thought was quite good. But as he did say, he's a headhunter. That's what he does. That's what he's good at. So there are ways of getting hold of you. Now, you don't know if that's going to happen, right? I don't know. Wouldn't it be hilarious if in the next 2 weeks, and we post this on the group, it's like, I've had a phone call from Richard Branson. You never guess what he said. Now, if that did happen, I'd be all over the manifesting stuff like a rash. It would be like, well, how did that happen? It's like, you talked about it, you did it with feeling, therefore you must have manifested this. Yeah, well, that's how it works, isn't it? Apparently, it's like, oh yeah, you didn't manifest it because you didn't have the feeling behind it. You have to have the feeling behind it, or you don't manifest it. It was like, yeah, I've done that as well. Didn't work. Yeah, I had a lot of feeling behind it, still didn't work. So, oh, you didn't play it in your mind 1,000 times. That's what it is, and it's like, that's why manifesting doesn't work. I'll tell you, sod the manifesting. Just go and bloody create the thing, right? Right? Stop manifesting it. Go and create it. Right? It's much easier, right? If you just go and make the thing yourself. Honestly, I want to manifest a Ferrari. Well, just get the money and go and buy one. That's like my version of manifesting it. It's like, create it, go and buy one. Simple. So this is this is about the creation bit. So how would you get to both? How would you get to either a really large market on a really big scale? And I'll give you an example, right? So a book. An ebook, something that's downloadable, a podcast, getting on other people's interviews, doing something, amplifying something that you do, right? So getting on the BBC, getting on the couch on ITV, right? Getting to a larger audience, getting to an audience that has a lot of people. So joint venturing with people, lining up with people like Gary Vaynerchuk or people with large lists. Maybe doing joint ventures with people that have large lists and saying, look, I've got this big need, right? Oh, by the way, there is a way to get hold of Sir Richard Branson, and I've seen someone do it. Right, it's called the third point in the triangle. So what you do is you find an interest that they have that you then share the interest, whatever that is. Yeah? And so for Richard Branson, he has this particular charity that he does a lot of work for. If you get involved in that charity, guess what? You can get to talk to him. It's not that hard. And the same is with anyone that you want to get hold of. So let's just say, I don't know, for instance, I wanted to get hold of Tony Robbins, right? So same sort of thing, Tony Robbins, you'd find out, you'd do a bit of research into what is the third point in the triangle. Yeah. You find out what the interests are, and then you create maybe an ebook based around that charity, based around the thing that the charity deals with. Yeah. And there are ways you can create ebooks, by the way, where you don't write them. A really simple way to create an ebook is to, well, first of all, you can get other people to write them by going on to Fiverr and Upwork and places like that where you pay people to actually do it. But a really simple way to write an ebook, you can do it in a weekend, is to go on to Google and look up the thing you want to write about and see all the questions that are being asked about that thing, right? And then pay someone to research the stuff and come up with all the answers. And then you just read the ebook and create an audio book and you can do it in a weekend, right? It's a really simple way to do it. And you can create a white paper, for instance. Same thing. You can create a white paper that is maybe 4 or 5 pages of A4 that is really, really, really precise and well researched, but it's very specific to this very, very niched thing that this person, you want them to read it. Guess what? Let's say that someone has a massive interest in meningitis, right? And you send this white paper on meningitis, right? Guess what they're going to do? They're going to read it. Right. And all of a sudden you've got that thing that you've connected with them, and it hasn't been a direct, oh, can I talk to you? It's like, I've got this thing that you might think is useful. Right. That's a really simple way to connect to someone. Now, again, if you're going to create something that's going out to a large audience, creating something like an ebook and sticking it on Amazon and then sticking it on YouTube as well, and then tagging it and having the right tags in place, right? And then tagging someone in, all of a sudden you've got that person pointed to the thing that's of use to them. Right, so you're not just going to them direct and saying, can I talk with you? You're saying, I've created this thing that I know is of interest to you, and I've tagged you in. Now, that's another really smart way of then getting on their lists, getting on their podcasts, getting, piggybacking their lists. Because one of the things that people say to me is like, yeah, but you've got a list. It's like, yes, I've got a list, and it's taken me a long time to create that list. And yes, you can send emails out to your list, and my open rates are about 20 to 30%. And click-through rates of about 10 or 15%, which isn't bad. But, you've got people out there, people like Gary Vaynerchuk, who have hundreds of thousands of people on a list, and their open rate is like 60, 70% with a click-through rate of 30%. So, there are ways to get on other people's lists, and this is one of the ways to do it. Find out something that is of interest to them, third point in the triangle, connecting with them on that third point in the triangle, right? So that's a really simple way of getting hold of someone who has your audience, and you can do that quickly. Another way to do it, which is actually also fairly simple, is to create a podcast based on that thing, which again, you can do in a few days. I mean, it's actually very, very easy. You can automate it nowadays. I created mine through something called Blueberry Podcasting, and it's all there. It's like you sign up to this admin system, and it walks you through how to do it. And all you need is literally a microphone and a camera. And I do mine on Zoom, and it records audio and video at the same time. And then you just have the audio that's split, and you just upload it. And I upload it raw. I actually just upload it raw. I literally cut the ends off in Audacity, which is a free bit of audio software, and stick it up there. Now, if you had a podcast dedicated to this one subject, right, and asked this person to be your first guest on the show, chances are they'd say yes. They don't need a massive audience because it's a really specific thing. Yeah. So you create the really specific thing you want to talk to them about and get them on their show. And of course, then you're buddies because you've just been chatting to them for an hour and a half. And you've done, oh, by the way, since you're here, I've got this really interesting thing I might want to talk to you about. Oh, well, you're my best buddy now. Of course we can talk. Honestly, it's not that hard. It's doable. And I know the person who did speak to Richard Branson as well. So that is doable. Get involved through their charity. You can do it. And also I would suggest also starting with people that live near you. So look up people that live near you, because sometimes people that live near you, just the fact that you're in the same town as them, doesn't even matter if it's the same subject area or the same interest. Mark lives in Northampton. There'll be someone who famously lives in Northampton. If he calls them up and says, I live in Northampton, he'll be like, oh, so do I. Honestly. And the further you get away from Northampton, the tighter that bond gets. So if you're in the outback in Australia, they'll be coming to your wedding, If you're in Northampton, it doesn't work so well. It's like, well, of course I'm in Northampton. You're in Northampton. It's like, we're in Northampton. Anyway. So on the narrow and deep, right? So if I've got a friend of mine, Commandy Constable, who I've actually invited to the group, the how do you make 50K in 2 weeks? He is a consultant, and he goes out and he does consultancy jobs all over the world. And the way that he actually gets the work is that he writes articles. So he writes blog post articles, and he writes them specifically for the publications where his audience will be reading them. Okay. Now, if you've already got a blog, this is separate to that. you can still have your blog and you can still have your blog posts that go out to these particular magazines, for instance, online magazines. So for me, it would be like Entrepreneur Magazine. I did one for Under 30 CEO. I've done one for Thrive Global. Huffington Post would be another one. Lots of sort of, there's quite a few sort of male orientated business magazines that he writes for as well. And a lot more men, sort of specific men online portals that are coming out now, as well as men are coming out of themselves and being a bit more kind of, it's okay to be a man. It's not just about, it's, I can be a man at last. And so, go and like hunt a bear and chop some wood and stuff. Obviously, you don't do that in the UK. You just go and play football and go to the pub. So there are places which you can write specifically for, but you can still send that blog article to your list. Right, you just can't publish it on your website, because these places that will publish these articles, they need to be exclusive. But that actually works in your favor, because what you need to do is look at their guidelines. This is really important. If you go to the back end of whatever site it is, so start with who is my audience, start with who is my client, that's where you start, right? Who is my client? Who do I want to get to here? Then what do they read? And a really smart way to do this, by the way, is to phone up some of your clients that meet your, call it an avatar, that meet your avatar, and say, what online portals do you read? What's your favorite online magazine? And get them to tell you. And then you go to the website and you look at their guiding, the publications guidance. Now, this is the bit where a lot of people screw up. They just send through articles they've written, and they miss the detail. Now, if you follow their guidance really specifically, right, so it tells you the sort of things they want. It tells you how many words to write. It tells you all the different grammar mistakes. And if you follow those to the letter and send them something exclusively for them, chances are you'll get published. Right now, this is what I did with Thrive. I've done 3 articles now for Thrive Global, and there are loads of others that you can do. Entrepreneur Magazine, as I say, would be one for me. So, but you find out who is right for your niche, who is right for the client that you're after, and you write an article specifically for them. Now, once you've done that, you can put their logo on your website. Yeah. So again, it's amplification. But in terms of a 2-week thing, what you really need to be doing is focusing on the broader market. Okay, so what I would suggest is you've got, and the great thing about this is you can create one bit of content that does both, right? So if you create a specific white paper or ebook that's targeting your niche either on a large scale or on a very narrow, deep scale, but make sure that ebook is absolutely spot on. Right, so you've got links in there, you've got references in there, maybe you've got some sort of scientific backup and some, you've got some really juicy stuff in there, and you've got a couple of nuggets in there, we call them nuggets, a couple of nuggets in there which really get people's juices flowing. Maybe even be a bit controversial. Yeah, that's another way to get the attention. And then this ebook then becomes your lead bait. Now, what you can do with this ebook then is you can get a list of journalists. There's a website called Help a Reporter Out, which you can sign up for, and they look for certain articles and certain niches that they're looking for content. But if you actually go to websites like Help a Reporter Out, it will give you some alternative ones, because there's a few more that have come up in the last couple of years. But there's also ways you can get hold of journalists. Every single journalist worth their salt's on Twitter, right? Every single one of them. They're on Twitter. Doesn't matter what they do. They're on Twitter. There's something you can use called Twitter Full, Twitter FALL. And if you type the hashtag in, and you can also type in the location, and you can also type in the date. So you can go back, for instance, 6 months, and you can actually set the parameters for the dates, and you can see who's talking about certain hashtags based on their Twitter usage, and you can then obviously put those people in a list. So you set up a separate list in Twitter, and you put all the journalists in a list, for instance. Now, if you want to be really clever, make the list public, and then put some interesting stuff out there, because they get informed. They don't need to follow you on Twitter to get told this. So, journal requests. Thank you, Helen. Yeah, it's the hashtag journal request. That's another good one. So another way to do it is, once you've got your ebook, okay, actually work on the real thing, right? So you've got a proper book coming out. Now, your ebook, okay, you can go to a publisher with this as a proposal or a pitch, and say, this is the ebook, this is my audience, I've researched it, this is the need, etc. This pitch is going to be the full book. I'm going to turn this into the full thing, the full Monty. So that's one way. Advances are less because unless you've got a big following. If you've got a big following, it's not actually that hard to get an advance, right? So most publishers don't actually care about the content. All they care about is if you've got a large following. So if you've got 200,000 people following you on social media, which some people have, then we've got a hand raised here. I'll come to that in a sec. If you've got a large following on social media, then they'll be interested in this, right? So, and there is actually one of the publishing companies I do work with. They've actually got one of their authors has like 500,000 people following her on Twitter, and she interacts with those people for 2 hours every day. That is her list. Okay, so someone's raised their hand. Is there a question? Hold on, who raised their hand? Oh, Laurie. Okay, I'll unmute you. Hi, Laurie.
Yeah. I'm unmuted. Okay. So as some of you know, I just wrote a book, and it's really small. So if I wanted to do something like that, I would go back to my publisher and do what now?
So if you've already got a publisher, okay,
Yeah.
so I tend to recommend people self-publish purely because you get...
I did self-publish.
Okay, right. So once you get comments coming back, so I would really keep an eye on Amazon. Yeah. And then if you get the feedback on Amazon, you say, look, we've really got something here. We can take this to the next level. But this is one of the tips coming up, and I'll start it here. Make videos of your book, right?
What do you mean by that?
So
what do you mean make a video of my book?
The content in your book needs to be turned into videos.
Oh, okay.
Right. YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world. Amazon is the third biggest. Okay. Google will get overtaken by YouTube at some stage next year. Right? There are more people searching for things on YouTube than anywhere else. Okay. And Facebook is going to actually struggle. Facebook's in a bit of an issue at the moment. Whereas YouTube is just going. And in fact, one of the things I would actually say to you is whatever you are doing, and this is actually one of the reasons I wanted to do this today, is because as of tomorrow, all of my content is going on YouTube. I'm just going to put YouTube, hashtag, and you can find it as well. And you can find out what people are talking about, and you can answer questions. Don't have to be that long, right? We're not talking about advertising here, although that is another option as well. YouTube advertising is still really, really good. Much better than Facebook advertising. If anyone's tried that and succeeded, please let me know. I just keep wasting money on Facebook advertising, whereas YouTube advertising is actually really good. I don't know, maybe you just got to have the knack for one or the other. So, turn everything you've got into content, into video, everything. Which is why I suggest if you do stuff on audio, do it in Zoom. Yeah, because you've got it in video, you've got it in audio at the same time. Then you got both. Then you can upload the video.
Oh,
yeah. You can get subtitles made for YouTube videos really, really easily. I use a website called rev.com, rev.com, and they actually create subtitles at $1 a minute. So if you've got a 60-minute interview, it's $60. But it's really worthwhile because you get it in all the different formats as well. So you can have it as a Facebook video, you can have it as a YouTube video, you can have it whatever. Having said that, the YouTube automated one is actually not bad now. And it seems if you speak clearly, it will pick it up pretty easily, and you can just go in and edit it. It's actually very easy to edit it. The back end of YouTube is actually pretty easy to use. There's like another part of it which you can go to as well, which is like the deeper editor. But actually, you don't really need any more than that. You can top and tail videos. You can put captions on. You can do all sorts of crazy stuff on there. So, but it's about finding the right hashtag so people can search it, and about putting the right information in the copy and in the headline as well. You need to put it in so people can actually find it. But you really want to be turning all of your stuff into video, whatever it is. There's almost like no excuse. Even the vets that we're talking to. It's like they're finding ways to put stuff into video, mainly things like testimonials, but just ways about how things can be done so that obviously you're dealing with end of lives a lot of time there. So there's really, really good things you can do. So on that basis, I'm just going to mute you again, Laurie. On that basis, Facebook Lives are good. because they are live, and you do get if you've got a decent following, that's a really good way to kind of drum up support and get people interested in things. But you don't, obviously, for starters, they're live, and YouTube, you don't have to be live, you can just upload it. You can also obviously do things like Google Hangouts, and then that automatically uploads to YouTube. But so Facebook Lives are slightly different, and I would say Facebook's going to struggle in the next couple of years. I mean, they've annoyed a few people with the way they do their advertising anyway. So, whereas YouTube is just going to go exploding. I mean, when I was working at the Entrepreneur Circle, and they actually did an event with Google, the guys from Google, and this was a couple of years ago now. They said, if you're not doing everything on video, you're completely missing a trick here. Video is where it's at, and if you can get comfortable doing video, that's also really useful as well. Honestly, once you've done 2 or 3 of them, it's a walk in the park. Now you get used to it. I would suggest getting a decent microphone. I've got a decent microphone for outdoors, and I've got a little Samsung Go mic here, which I find really useful as well. And also, if you're working with clients, ask them. You've got a blue mic. Yeah, they're good. Ask them. Say, is it okay to use parts of this session and put them out there? And most of the time, people are actually really happy with that. You could even just say, look, I'll edit it first and just, run it by you. So Nicholas says, doing a demo video, is it okay to do on your phone? Yeah, absolutely. Phones are, they're really good quality now. Don't do them outside. You will get wind, picking up the wind, even on a calm day. So try and do it with a fairly decent environment as well. Because once it's out there for good. It's very difficult to recall stuff once it's gone out there. So just make sure it's your brand. At the end of the day, you're representing, right, your company. Yeah, you are the front door of your company. Even if the way you answer your phone is the front door of your company, it's like opening the door to your company and saying, hello, how are you? And if it's like, what, then that's the first impressions. It's not particularly good. He said with exposing off his chest. It's terrible, honestly. I'm so excited to get on here. I completely forgot to look in the mirror, as you can tell. So getting the right support. So this is really important. This is the bit where I kind of want to open it up and create this bit of a mastermind bit, because I've got a mastermind group in London, which is really, really great. So we've got, there's 8 people in the group, and we all help each other on a every other month we help each other. So the mastermind group I've got in London is we meet every other month, and then we meet online every other month. So every month we get the group together and we do a group session, and the face-to-face ones are for a whole day, and the online ones tend to be for a couple of hours, and then we do a weekly check-in as well. So having a mastermind is really, really useful. Now, the stuff that's happened as a result of this mastermind group has been phenomenal. Right? There is a book being written with a very, 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 very famous person doing the forward. There are businesses that have exponentially grown as a result of this. There are issues that have been overcome which would not have been overcome anywhere near so eloquently or so well on their own. We basically are acting like CEOs within each other's businesses. And it's really useful to get a fresh approach, a fresh way of thinking and looking at everything. And I'm actually starting a mastermind group this week. It's starting in Banbury, and I've got a couple of people already. I'm not going to say who they are, but they're already in the group. So they're part of the mastermind that's starting on the 22nd on Thursday. But I just want to kind of open it up and make this a mastermind about you guys, because I would like people who have, let's start with who would like to make £50,000 in 2 weeks. Okay, Laurie, right. So, and Helen's got another one. So Mel's also put his hand up as well. So let me just do you 3 first, and then we'll get a couple of ideas and suggestions coming in from you guys. So, Laurie, based on what we've already talked about, what are you going to do next?
Thank you, Damien. Well, I really love the idea of the podcast. I have never done one, so that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I've got an ebook.
Great host, by the way. You'd be a great host.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I love the idea. I've got the ebook. I can write more ebooks. I love that idea. I really love all the ideas that you've mentioned. I don't know how many of them I can actually do, but there's tons. I don't get the journalist thing. I'm not really blogging right now. Not that couldn't be a possibility. But I love the YouTube. Yeah. I would love to get subscribers to my YouTube. I have YouTube, but I haven't really been using it. So
Mm-hmm.
it really shows me that there's a whole arena that I could go into that I haven't really thought of. And
Yeah.
so I really love the idea of the YouTube stuff.
Well, I
So,
would suggest you start with YouTube as a search engine.
okay.
Right. So you come up with the keywords in the same way that if you were advertising to your clients, right, you would use
Yeah.
it in the same way as that. And then the same goes for Amazon as well. Use Amazon as a search engine, right? See what titles are being written. Yeah. And then what people are saying about it. And then if you go into the comments section in the Amazon books, you'll actually see what's wrong with it. Yes, that's a really, really good and an easy way to find out what needs to be addressed. Books that write about or try to solve a problem. Who do I need to mute here? It might be Nicola. People who write about who write a book, they're writing a solution to a problem, and the comments on those books tend to be about what wasn't addressed or what wasn't done very well. That's an opportunity.
Yeah,
that's a real opportunity to go in and make a video based on what that isn't addressing. So yeah, definitely YouTube, definitely video, and obviously there are other ways of getting video out there. You can, I don't know how you do it, but I have heard someone say that you can even upload video to Facebook Live now. There is a workaround. So it might just be worth Googling that. And
the other thing I wanted to say is I love identifying what your superpower is. I love that. That's a good one.
Well, and that's also part of the amplification bit, because when I was talking about the journalists, what the amplification bit is fairly simple. So people that write books, I always say, right, okay, now what? Now, what are you going to do with this now? And the question I always ask them is, like, if you had to get on the BBC couch with your book in your hand, or on Radio 5 Live is another good one, because they love books on 5 Live. There's always someone writing a book. How would you reverse engineer being on Radio 5 Live talking about your book? Right? Now, the way is always the same. You look for the journalists who are writing about the problem that you solve, and you get in their airspace because you are an authority within their airspace. And once you do that, once you make connections with those journalists, and you can show that you're an authority, and the fact that you've written a book means you are an authority, you start having conversations with them. And if you start doing a podcast as well, and if you start doing YouTube videos and tagging them properly, guess what? They're going to keep on seeing you coming up as the authority. And then when a story breaks, right, which is relevant to what you talk about, and they have you on speed dial, job done.
Got it.
Okay.
Thanks.
That's the journalist bit. And it will take. Dave Lee says, I was on Radio 5 with my book, The Hairy Ass Builder's Guide to Stress Management. I love it. Oh, Dave, that's absolutely brilliant. Where are you, Dave? He's disappeared. He's on the other page. I'm just going to find you. Dave, can you unmute yourself and say how you managed to get on there? Where are you?
Hello.
Ah, there you are, Dave. How did you get on 5 Live?
Randstad, the recruitment agency.
Oh yeah.
Were had a clipper in the middle of the Thames,
right?
The boat, and it was all to do with mental health.
Okay.
I got invited along to do a talk on the clipper, and they heard about it, and then they got hold of me, and basically that's how I got Radio 5 Live.
Oh, that's awesome! I love it.
Yeah,
that's brilliant. That's fantastic. There you go. So amplification. It's about getting out there and talking about what you do. Yeah. I love that. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate that. And it is a great book title. It's really good. I love that. So the next question, or the next person who put their hand up was Helen. Right. So, and then we'll do Mel as well. So Helen.
Hi.
So I think amplification is your way forward, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So have you been in contact with journalists about what you're doing?
Yeah, a little bit, but not consistently, and not enough. So just doing more of the same. But something that's coming to me to speak about, I know you know, David, but building a not-for-profit, my issue is actually around money. So obviously I need money to run the business, to make the profit, to help the people. So it's about joining up the links to, so So although I put very quickly, I want to make 50,000. Really, I want to reach 50,000 people rather than make £50,000.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
It's not about the money.
Yeah. Well, they kind of go hand in hand. I mean, it's a good example of, if you reach 50,000 people with an ebook that cost £1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've done an online course. So yeah, it come to me to perhaps convert that course into an ebook, so it's available in a different format.
Yeah. What would you call the book? This is really important about the title. What would you call it?
So it's a guide to mindful eating. So
okay. Yeah.
I'm very keen for it to be free, though.
Okay. It's actually, you can't actually put it for free on Amazon to start with.
Right. Okay. So low price, but it's that whole link, isn't it, that people will value it if they're paying for it.
Yeah, well, because you're going to a larger audience anyway, I wouldn't worry too much about that. Because what the other thing you could do, actually, if you wanted to give it away for free, you can do it using the KDP Select, but it means you can't sell it anywhere else apart from Amazon, which is a bit of a pain.
Okay.
But that does let you give it away for free for 5 days of every 90. But
yeah, I think I like your suggestion of joint venturing. So I started doing that now. I've got 4. I've done 1. I've got 3 more podcasts lined up with relevant people.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's about then I'll be reaching their audiences if I can get them to push it out for me. So that sort of thing about collaboration is really interesting to me.
Okay. Another really good way to get on radio is to get hold of your local station, right? And say that you are a local businesswoman, local author. Is that you who's making the... I think it's your phone is making all sorts of interference stuff.
It's right by the mic. Sorry.
You are a local business woman and dealing in this sector. And when they have an article that comes up that deals with eating, as someone who's local, get in there really quickly. You can do that. In other words, make friends with the editors there. Once you're in there, obviously they have then a recording of the show that you're on. It'll probably be a sort of BBC local show. Once you have that recording, it's much easier to then go out to the nationals with your book proposal and say, this is my area, this is my speciality, this is the interview that I did. And as long as, I always say to people, as long as you can come across without many ums and ahs, you'll probably get it. But what they don't want on national is people that go, nothing worse in radio than that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So if you do that, practice not doing it. Okay, Laurie, thank you. Okay, so we've got YouTube, we've got creating a book, obviously putting all your stuff on video. Right, Mel, what do you do, Mel?
What do I do? What do I do? Well, I'm a coach.
Oh. And you've frozen for a minute there. Let's see if we can get you back. You're a coach, yeah?
Coach. I'm a builder. I'm an internet marketer. I'm a text marketer. And at the moment, everything's a little... So right now, I'm trying to develop a coaching practice. That's my focus.
So I love the fact that you and Dave should like hook up and do something because it's like the two builders, the coaches. You actually, I can't hear you, so I don't know if anyone else can not hear. I know you were cutting out there a minute. So Dave's up for that. There you go. So straight away, it's like an association there, right? So get hold of Dave. What I'll do is I'll hook you two guys up, but we can't hear you.
Great.
It's cutting out, so unfortunately. Right. I am going to give you a quick run through of some of the other suggestions that I came up with, right? So some really, really simple stuff that you can do to get some of that money coming in. Asking for referrals from current clients, but getting them to either write or record a testimonial for you. making it very specific and saying, so for instance, I've got a coaching session with a senior exec on Thursday, and I said, can we meet up for a coffee early? And can I record it? And he said, yeah. I said, then can I use that as for marketing? This is the thing that I'm creating. And he said, yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to make it a little bit better, and I'm going to use that testimonial, and I'm going to go to specific people that fit his criteria, his avatar. Right, so actually making it really, really specific. So don't just ask for referrals, get them to actually record a video and make it very specific to that niche, that sector. Partnering with other people. So we've talked about piggybacking other people's lists, but there's also other companies out there, right, that maybe get approached for consultancy work. This is for me, obviously, doing the consultancy, but it's, depending on what you do. So, there are, for instance, marketing agencies and advertising agencies that probably get approached, that get asked, right, do you know any consultants that deal with creativity? Yeah, now that's something that they might not do. So one of the things I'm going to do tomorrow is create a pitch letter. I'm going to go to 6 agencies that I used to work with, and I'm actually going to say to them specifically, do you ever get approached for consultants? And if so, could you recommend me going forward? So this is kind of like asking for referrals, but actually asking for referrals from businesses as opposed to just individuals. And that's something which, hasn't, I don't think, been tapped into very much. Another one, certainly from me, is to check out jobs boards. So there are jobs being posted for consultants in specific niches and specific sectors. And something that you can do then is, the person, sometimes it's the HR person, but the company is on the lookout for that need. Okay, so then again, really simple to put a pitch together, make it very specific for that particular company and say, look, I know you're looking for this type of consultancy work. This is what I've done. The fact that I've done a TED talk is really useful. The fact that I've written a couple of books is really useful. The fact that I've been on the BBC is really useful. So, use everything in your favor, use your superpower, and actually make it very specific, going to a particular company that you, again, know that you have the need. Something else really simple is to just go into speaking to old clients, clients that you've done work for before, and just say, look, I've got this big, hairy, audacious goal here, and can you help me do it? Is there anyone that you can recommend? Is there any, do you know anyone in the media that might be interested in this as a story? So that's another way of doing it. So you actually create it into a story. It's one of the things I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be turning this into a story. It's like, can you go out and create £50,000 in 2 weeks? And this is the story. This was the first part of it. The first part of it was having the thought, can it be done? Second part of it was, sticking it on the webinar. And the third part of it is, right, can it actually be done? And if so, how is it done? And then, being really transparent about that. So, you guys sign up to the group. I've got the group on there. It's a public group. You don't need to pay or anything. Be on the group and see how this pans out. Another way would be to do advertising. So if you haven't done Google advertising or Facebook advertising, but I would definitely say YouTube advertising, especially if you're going to put your stuff into video format, because YouTube advertising is pretty cheap still. I know when I did it, I actually got more leads from my YouTube advertising than I did out of any of my Facebook ads, and they were good leads as well. Talked about Twitter search, so networking, obviously, going out there and talking about your story. Creating a course based on your ebook. So we had it the other way around with Laurie. She's already created the course and then she created the ebook from that. Maybe you can create a course. There's actually really, once you've got the videos, okay, you can put them out sometimes through things like Udemy, but there's obviously other platforms that you have out there as well. Could be a really good bit of lead bait though, and you can give away parts of the course for, to get contacts in. So we've talked about writing a one-page handwritten letters, so being very specific about the type of people that you're approaching and actually writing a handwritten letter. So if you're going narrow and deep, remember I said at the beginning, so if I want to pick someone who's doing who's running a large multinational over here in industry, so tech industry, and I get their details, write a handwritten letter, and write their name and address, because they tend to get open. You're actually sending something in the post these days is completely overlooked, and we sit behind email, we hide behind email a lot. But if that contract is worth 10 grand to you, which it would be for me, then it's worth actually sitting down and really, really working through it. Really doing a bit of research on them, coming up with a link, the third point in the triangle. Remember I said that, something that links you and writing a handwritten letter. I mean, it just seems to make sense. This is quite a good one. So using websites like Quora to showcase your expertise. If you haven't heard of Quora, it's a question and answer site. I've been on it quite a few years now, and I still get clients coming in from Quora. And it is actually a really good place to also do research. Yeah. Quora. Quora. And again, going on there and still having a look for the sort of questions that are being asked and the sort of answers that are being given, and you can then get involved in a conversation. Do the same for comments on YouTube and Amazon as well. So talked about creating a bit of controversy. So coming up with, 2 weeks to create £50,000. It got a lot more people in when I mentioned that than previously when I just wrote, create your future. So creating a bit of controversy actually gets bums on seats that you can then, share things with them and get a story out there. Look and see if there's any industry conferences or events that you could speak to and speak out in the next couple of weeks, because they do have dropouts at the last minute. So you can actually say, look, I've got this fantastic project I'm working on. If you have anyone dropping out at the last minute, I'm available. And so that, I thought, was quite a comprehensive list of things that you could do that would be quite helpful to get the ball rolling. As I said, there is the group, there is the Facebook group, and if you signed up for this, which you obviously did because you're here, I'll send the link to that in the email that's going to go out to you with the link once I've uploaded it. So join that Facebook group, be part of that Facebook group. If you want to, put some content on there, feel free to. If you want to come up with your clarity, your mission, and your why, then please do that as well, and get interactive. Is there anyone who wants actually some specific question answered, or some specific guidance that I can help with before we call it a day? We've just gone slightly over the hour, so hopefully that was the juggernaut you were expecting. There was a lot of content in there that hopefully I thought you would find useful. And my mastermind in Banbury starts on the 22nd, starts on Thursday. If you want to be a part of that, then just personal message me as well. If you're based near there, although we have got someone coming up from London who's going to be part of that too. And that's the year-long program where we exponentially grow your business over the course of a year with 7 other business owners. So if you want to be part of that, just message me as well. If there are no other questions, then we can call it an evening. I hope that was useful for everyone. And I will upload the replay and you can share it. Please do share it to people that you think might find it useful. It's all about now amplification, getting the message out there. And I'll send the links for the page as well. Thanks very much. Okay, guys, take care and see you all on the group. Speak to you soon. Bye.